I used to think the scariest stories were the ones that happened to other people, until I started hearing the faint chime on my phone at night. At first, it was just an odd notification I didn't understand. An unknown AirTag is moving with you. I stared at the message, confused, half asleep, the glow of my screen reflecting off the dark window beside my bed. It didn't make sense. I didn't own an AirTag. I didn't even know anyone who used one. But there it was, pulsing quietly on my screen, like a heartbeat I couldn't turn off. The next morning, I brushed it off. Maybe someone on the subway had one near me. Maybe it was a glitch. But over the following days, the alerts became more specific, pinpointing locations I had actually been. My gym, the cafe I always stopped by before work, my apartment. That was when I realized something or someone was tracking me. For a long time, I didn't want to believe it. It sounded too paranoid, too much like one of those true crime threads you scroll past late at night. But denial is a fragile thing. It lasts only until you start noticing the little changes, the way footsteps echo behind you in an empty parking garage, the way a car idles just a few spaces away from yours every night, how your phone vibrates again right when you lock your door. You start questioning your own sanity. You delete apps, reset settings, even change your phone, yet the alert keeps coming back, soft and calm as ever. An AirTag is moving with you. That phrase becomes something you hear even when the phone isn't ringing. You start listening for it in the silence, expecting it like a whisper in your ear. You check your bag, your coat, your car, every pocket, every compartment. Nothing. Just air and fear. You try to sleep, but every sound becomes a clue. A door creaking, pipes clicking, the faint tap of rain against glass that might not be rain at all. And somewhere in that sleepless blur, a thought sinks in deeper than all the others, someone close enough to hide something on you once. Maybe brushed past you in a store. Maybe handed you something innocuous. Someone's hand has already been where yours now trembles. There's a strange kind of horror in that realization. Not the sudden, screaming kind, but the slow one that seeps under your skin. It's the horror of knowing you've already been chosen. That somewhere, right now, there's a blinking dot on someone else's phone, and it's you. You're the moving object, the target, the experiment. You tell yourself you'll go to the police, but even that thought feels absurd, because what do you really have? A message? A noise? A feeling? They'll tell you to stay cautious, and you'll nod, pretending that helps. But once that line has been crossed, once you understand that technology can turn ordinary curiosity into perfect surveillance, you never truly feel alone again. Every time you see a small white circle of plastic, even at a store, your stomach tightens. You imagine how easily it could slip into a coat pocket, a car wheel well, a purse. How simple it is to follow someone without ever seeing them again. That's what terrifies me most, the simplicity. The way obsession doesn't need strength or courage anymore. Just a $29 device and a little patience. I wish I could tell you the worst is over, that I learned my lesson and moved on. But that would be a lie, because even now, sometimes, when I walk home at night and the streetlights flicker, I feel my phone buzz against my leg. And for a split second, I hesitate before looking, because deep down, I already know what it's gonna say. An AirTag is moving with you, and that's when the real stories begin. It started as an ordinary Saturday afternoon for her. She was 23, quiet, the kind of girl who preferred browsing stores alone rather than hanging out in loud groups. Walden Galleria was always her escape, clean, bright, predictable. She liked that about it. The noise of people moving around her drowned out her thoughts, and for a few hours she could forget how lonely the apartment felt. That day, she stopped by Sephora, lingered too long testing perfumes, and smiled when the cashier complimented her earrings. There was nothing unusual until she noticed the man. He wasn't doing anything overtly wrong, just standing a few stores down, leaning on the railing, smiling in that way older men sometimes do when they want to seem harmless. He had a soft face, graying hair, a pressed flannel tucked into his jeans. The kind of person you'd think was someone's friendly uncle. When she left the store, he nodded politely, asked if she needed help finding something. She gave a brief no, and walked away. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. When she got home that night, the notification appeared for the first time. An unknown AirTag is moving with you. She frowned, tapped it open, confused. The app showed a map, a red line following her exact route from the mall to her apartment. At first, she thought maybe someone nearby had an AirTag, maybe a friend's luggage, maybe just Bluetooth interference. She ignored it, but the next day, it happened again. Same alert, same message. Her heart began to beat faster. She checked her keys, her backpack, her car. Nothing. She even reset her iPhone's location settings. But when she got to work on Monday, the message appeared once more. An AirTag is moving with you. By then, she couldn't ignore it. She remembered the man's face, the subtle friendliness that had felt slightly too intentional. When she went home that evening, she emptied her purse completely, shaking it out over her bed. A metallic clink hit the comforter. A tiny white disc rolled into view, no bigger than a coin. Her hands froze. The AirTag was clean, unmarked, brand new. For a second, her brain refused to process what she was seeing. Then the fear hit sharp and cold, crawling up her spine. Someone had slipped that thing into her bag. Someone had been following her since the mall. She didn't sleep that night. Every sound made her jump the pipes, the wind, the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Around 2 a.m., she noticed movement through the sheer curtain covering her bedroom window. A shadow shifted against the light outside, too deliberate to be the wind. Her breath caught. She reached for her phone, but her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped it. When she pulled the curtain back just enough to peek through, she saw him, the same man from the mall, standing in the glow of the street lamp, looking directly at her window. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was just staring. She ducked away, heart hammering in her chest. Her mind scrambled between options. Call the police, call a friend, call anyone. She dialed her brother first. He lived 15 minutes away. She whispered that someone was outside, told him about the AirTag, the mall, everything. Lock the doors, he said. I'm coming right now. While she waited, she could hear the faint sound of gravel shifting, footsteps moving around the side of the house. She turned off all the lights, crouched by the couch, gripping her phone like a weapon. Her brother arrived minutes later, pulling into the driveway fast enough to make the tires squeal. By the time he ran up to the porch, the shadow was gone. The street was empty again, calm, quiet, normal. The police showed up soon after. They searched around the yard, took statements, checked security cameras from nearby houses. The footage showed a man approaching, then disappearing into the darkness before the patrol car arrived. He hadn't been carrying anything, no weapon, just his hands in his pockets. The officers told her it was good she found the tracker early, that she should stay somewhere else for a few nights. She tried to take comfort in that, but there's a strange hollowness that follows you after something like this. You start to realize how fragile your sense of safety is, how easily someone can cross the invisible line between stranger and intruder. Her brother insisted she stay with him and his wife, but even there, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She'd catch herself glancing out the window, half expecting to see that same silhouette waiting by the curb. When the police traced the AirTag serial number, they found it registered to a store in the same mall she'd visited. Purchased with cash, no ID, no camera footage showing who bought it. The case stalled. Weeks passed. She returned to her apartment, replaced her phone, installed new locks, even changed her route to work. But trauma doesn't obey logic, it lingers. She found herself avoiding malls entirely, avoiding crowds, avoiding eye contact. Every time her phone vibrated unexpectedly, her stomach turned to stone. Months later, she was cleaning out an old handbag she hadn't touched since that night when her thumb brushed something rough at the bottom seam. For a split second, she froze, convinced she'd find another tracker, but it was only a broken zipper pull. Still, she dropped the bag in the trash. Some things weren't worth keeping. She never saw the man again. No more shadows outside the window. No strange cars parked on her street. But the silence didn't comfort her. It only left room for her imagination to fill the gaps. She started sleeping with the lights on. Her brother said she should move, start over, but she couldn't. She told him it wasn't the apartment she was scared of. It was the idea that danger could slip into your life so quietly you don't even feel it happen. Sometimes she still scrolls through her phone late at night, checking her settings, making sure the tracker detection is on. It's become a ritual, a superstition, and every now and then, when the screen flickers to life in the dark, she sees her own reflection staring back at her eyes wide, waiting for that line of text that changed everything once. An unknown AirTag is moving with you. Claire was the kind of person who planned everything down to the minute. Her car was always spotless, her work bag neatly arranged, her mornings perfectly timed. That sense of control was her safety net, until it wasn't. The first time her phone buzzed with the alert, she was on her usual route to work, a 40-minute drive across town. An AirTag is moving with you. She frowned, glanced at her dash-mounted phone, and sighed. Maybe it was just traffic interference. Another one of those random Bluetooth blips she'd read about online. She swiped it away, but when it appeared again the next morning, and then again that evening on her drive home, her chest tightened. The map showed a pulsing dot shadowing her exact path, every turn, every stoplight. It wasn't a coincidence. She parked outside her apartment and sat in the car for a full minute, staring at the screen. The words looked harmless, sterile even, but they pulsed with a kind of quiet menace. She checked her purse, glove box, under the seats. Nothing. She even laughed at herself out loud, a shaky laugh that didn't sound convincing. When she went inside, she tossed her keys on the counter, tried to shake the feeling off, and told herself she'd look again tomorrow. Tomorrow came, and so did the alert. This time it stayed on her screen longer, showing the AirTag's last location somewhere near the rear of her vehicle. She crouched down, running her hand along the bumper, under the wheel wells, even peering through the grille. Still nothing. The thought crept in. Maybe whoever planted it had been close enough to her car while she was inside the store, close enough to touch it. The realization made her skin prickle. She got in, drove to the police station, and showed them the alert. The officer behind the desk looked sympathetic but helpless. "It happens," he said. "Probably just a misplaced tag. Keep your eyes open." That night, she couldn't sleep. She turned her phone face down, but the glow still bled through the case. She dreamed of invisible hands placing things in her car, slipping through the dark unnoticed. When she woke up, her heart was pounding, as if she'd been running. She went out to the parking lot before sunrise, flashlight in hand, scanning every inch of metal, and finally wedged tight in the crack between her driver's seat and the center console, she saw a sliver of white plastic. Her breath hitched. It took effort to pry it out, her fingertips trembling as she pulled the AirTag free. It looked so ordinary, so harmless, it almost made her laugh again. She popped the back open, yanked the battery out, and tossed both pieces into separate trash bins. Done. Over. For a few days, life seemed to settle. No alerts, no strange cars, no shadows. But the human mind has a way of replaying fear like a song stuck on loop. Claire started glancing at her rearview mirror more often, noticing headlights that lingered too long behind her. She began varying her routes, taking side streets instead of the freeway. She told herself it was smart, not paranoid. A week later, it was late when she got home later than usual because of overtime. The hallway lights in her building flickered, humming softly. As she approached her apartment door, she noticed something small but wrong. The door was slightly ajar, not wide open, just the tiniest crack, like it hadn't latched properly. She froze. Her heart thudded once, hard. She hadn't left it open. She knew she hadn't. Her first instinct was to turn and run, but instead she whispered, "Hello?" The silence that answered her was too thick, too deliberate. She took one step forward, pushing the door open with her foot. The apartment looked untouched. Her shoes by the mat, the mug she'd left in the sink, the blanket folded on the couch. Everything was exactly as she remembered except the air. It smelled faintly different, warmer somehow, like someone had been inside only minutes before. She backed out slowly, closed the door, and called the police. They arrived within minutes, Checked every room, every closet. No forced entry, no sign of a break-in. You sure you didn't forget to lock it? One of them asked gently. She wanted to scream. She stayed at a friend's place for the next few nights. But even there, in a house filled with laughter and light, she couldn't shake the weight pressing against her chest. Every time her phone buzzed, she froze. When her friend handed her coffee, her hands trembled enough to spill some. "You're okay," her friend kept saying. But she didn't feel okay. Fear had found its way inside her skin, and it wouldn't leave. A week later, she packed everything she could fit into 2 suitcases and moved across town into a new building. Fresh start, new locks, new routines. She even bought a small security camera for her door. For a while, the world felt steady again. But every now and then, when she walked through a parking lot and caught the faint beep of someone's key fob, her pulse jumped. Every stranger's glance felt a second too long. Every sound behind her made her turn. Months passed. She met someone new, a coworker who made her laugh again, and little by little, the edges of her fear softened. But trauma doesn't disappear. It just learns to hide better. One night after dinner, as they stood by her car, her phone buzzed again. The notification that had haunted her months before flashed across the screen for a split second, then vanished. She stared at the screen, waiting for it to return, but it didn't. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a glitch. She smiled weakly and brushed it off when her boyfriend asked what was wrong. But on the drive home, she couldn't stop glancing in the mirror. When she parked, she sat there for a long time, engine still running, listening to the quiet tick of cooling metal. Outside, the streetlights hummed faintly. The world was calm. She turned off her phone, telling herself that would be the end of it. But the truth is, she still dreams about that first alert, the clean, sterile tone of the notification that somehow sounded like a whisper meant only for her. The idea that someone, somewhere, could still be watching, still knowing her routes, her habits, her routines, was a thought she couldn't quite bury. The AirTag was gone, but the fear remained, an invisible signal still pinging inside her chest. Sometimes, when she locks her door at night and hears the faint metallic click, she catches herself whispering into the dark, as if to convince herself it's over. But deep down, she knows the sound of security is just another kind of silence. He never thought something as small as a white plastic disc could destroy his life. For most of his 20s, Ryan had been cautious, maybe too cautious, especially when it came to people. But Devin, she was different. She was funny, disarming, the kind of person who made ordinary moments feel cinematic. They'd met through friends, dated for almost a year, and when things ended, it wasn't dramatic. At least not at first. They simply grew apart, or so he thought. What he didn't realize was that for Devin, the breakup wasn't the end of a relationship, it was the start of an obsession. It began subtly, a text at midnight, "I miss talking to you." Then another, a few days later, "Saw you at the cafe today. You look good." He hadn't been at any cafe. He ignored her, blocked her on social media, tried to move on. But within weeks, strange things started happening. His phone would buzz randomly with location sharing requests. His friends mentioned seeing his car in places he hadn't been. And then one evening, when he was halfway through his commute home, his iPhone lit up with a message that chilled him. "An AirTag is moving with you." He pulled over immediately, searched the car like a madman. Nothing. He felt stupid, paranoid even. Maybe it was just interference. But the next day, the alert appeared again. The route shown on the map was his exact path from work to his apartment, identical down to the minute. He checked the car again, the wheel wells, the undercarriage, every pocket in his gym bag. Still nothing. It wasn't until the third day that he found it tucked inside the lining of the small zippered pouch he kept in his trunk. He stared at it for a long time before touching it. A white AirTag, brand new, with a faint scratch across its back. He turned it over and felt his stomach drop. Scratched into the surface, barely visible, was a single letter, D. He wanted to believe it was a coincidence, but he knew better. Devin had always been clever with technology. She once bragged about tracking her ex's phone just to see if he was lying. Back then, it sounded like a joke. Now, it wasn't funny. He threw the AirTag out his car window somewhere on the highway, convinced that would end it. But the next morning, there it was again, the same alert, same message, same quiet terror pulsing on his phone. He began feeling watched everywhere. When he left work, there was always a car a few lengths behind him. When he walked into a store, he could swear someone was just stepping out. Then came the envelope. One afternoon, 2 police officers showed up at his door, holding a printed report submitted by an anonymous source. It accused him of stalking Devin, of tracking her movements with an AirTag, of following her car. He laughed when they read it out loud, certain it was a misunderstanding. But when they showed him images of his car parked outside her apartment complex, time-stamped at 11:48 p.m., his heart stuttered. He hadn't been there. He was home that night. He even had a movie rental receipt to prove it. The officers weren't cruel, just skeptical. "If it's not you, someone's setting you up," one said. "But until we figure it out, stay put." The next few weeks blurred together in a haze of panic. More reports, more evidence appeared. A video clip showing his silhouette walking down Devon's street. Texts supposedly from him, words he never sent. And every time he tried to explain, it made him sound more guilty. The AirTag alerts never stopped, even after he changed cars. One day, when he was cleaning out his glove compartment, he found another tracker lodged beneath a layer of papers. His chest tightened so hard, he thought he might faint. He brought it to the police station, shaking, desperate. They took it for evidence, but didn't say much else. Then the search warrant came. They tore through his apartment computers, phones, drawers. The humiliation burned worse than fear. His neighbors stared as officers carried boxes out the door. He didn't sleep that night or the next. He kept replaying every moment, every detail, wondering how deep she'd gone, how much she'd planned. Devin had once visited his apartment after they broke up, claiming she forgot a book. He let her in, distracted while she looked around. She must have placed the trackers then, maybe even planted files or devices. When the truth finally came out, it wasn't through investigation, it was through guilt. Devin's roommate, who had been helping her stage photos and messages, cracked under pressure. She confessed that Devin orchestrated everything. The trackers, the photos, even the fake reports. She wanted to ruin him for leaving her, to make him feel hunted. The roommate turned over chat logs, messages detailing each step. The police dropped the case, issued an apology, but the damage was irreversible. Ryan's job had quietly let him go, citing public concern. His friends stopped calling. His parents looked at him differently, even after hearing the truth. He thought about moving to another city, changing his number, disappearing completely. But no matter where he went, the paranoia followed. Every ping from his phone made him flinch. He deleted social media, avoided dating, avoided people altogether. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd been accused of stalking, yet he was the one who couldn't stop looking over his shoulder. Months later, while cleaning the storage closet of his new apartment, he found something that froze him in place. It was a small box, wedged behind old paint cans, one he didn't recognize. Inside was an AirTag, its battery dead. No scratches, no marks, just blank and silent. His first instinct was to throw it away, but he didn't. He set it on the counter, stared at it for hours, as if it might come back to life. He knew it wasn't Devon's. She'd been charged, ordered into therapy, moved out of state, but still, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, might be watching again. He started keeping the AirTag on his desk, next to his keys, like a reminder, not of her, but of how easily technology had become the new language of obsession. It didn't take brute force anymore, just proximity, just curiosity, just one moment of access, and suddenly, you belong to someone else's map. Sometimes, when he lies awake at night, the street outside silent and the glow from the router blinking in the corner, he imagines Devin staring at her own phone somewhere, watching a dot that used to be him. He wonders if she misses the power, the control, or if she even realizes how completely she destroyed another person's trust in the world. He's not sure what's worse, that she might still think of him, or that she doesn't at all. And in those sleepless hours, he catches himself doing the one thing he swore he'd never do again: checking his phone, scanning for devices, refreshing the screen just to be sure. Because now, fear isn't something he runs from. It's something that travels with him, invisible and silent, like a signal that never quite fades. Sometimes the scariest part isn't what happened. It's what might still be happening without you knowing. The stories you just heard aren't about monsters hiding in shadows or spirits whispering through walls. They're about people, ordinary people with ordinary faces using ordinary tools. A single object, no bigger than a coin, can become a doorway into someone's private life. A silent pulse of obsession disguised as convenience. That's what stays with me after hearing these stories. The quiet horror of how easy it's become to follow someone home without ever taking a step. You can change your locks, replace your phone, move across the city, but the feeling lingers. It hides in every vibration, every random buzz in your pocket, every moment you sense you're not as alone as you think. The truth is, once you realize how fragile privacy really is, you stop trusting the calm. You start scanning for the smallest signs: the sound of gravel shifting outside, the reflection of headlights that pause a second too long, the weight of your own phone in your hand, wondering if it's your lifeline or your leash. Maybe that's what technology has done to us. It's blurred the line between safety and surveillance so deeply that we can't tell which side we're on anymore. For those who've lived it, the fear doesn't fade when the alerts stop. It becomes quieter, more patient. It waits in the background of your life, pulsing beneath every notification, every unlocked door, every moment your screen lights up for no reason at all. And maybe one day, when you're sitting in your car, or walking through a parking lot, or scrolling through your messages at midnight, you'll feel that same electric jolt of unease. You'll see a message appear that shouldn't be there. Simple and sterile, but heavy with everything you never wanted to believe. And in that moment, you'll understand why none of them ever really moved on. Because the moment you start wondering who's watching, you've already been seen.